My cousin said, "That song was meant for me, not you." I laughed and replied, "You're delusional, he's my husband." 6 months later, I found them together on my couch. She smirked, "I told you he loved me." I filed for divorce the next day. My husband Andy, 33 male, and I, 29 female, got married a little over 2 months ago, and this absolute nightmare has been going on since then. I honestly don't even know where to start because this situation is so completely unhinged that I'm still processing it myself. First, some background on our wedding. We had a pretty small wedding, only about 75 people. I have a huge family, extended family gatherings are literally 200 plus people, but I only invited less than half of them for personal reasons. There's a lot of drama in my family, toxic relationships, people who've said horrible things about Andy and me, and honestly I just wanted our special day to be peaceful and surrounded by people who actually support us. One cousin, Miley, 29 female, I was really unsure about inviting. We weren't particularly close growing up, she's more of an acquaintance-level family member that I see at major holidays. But she was going through an incredibly hard time and I thought maybe inviting her would help her get out of her depressive funk. She had recently gone through a really messy divorce after her husband of 2 years, Flynn, 30 male, cheated on her with multiple women and then had the audacity to kick her out of the home they shared. She'd been posting really sad stuff on social media, talking about feeling abandoned and unloved, and I genuinely felt bad for her. I thought including her in our celebration might remind her that she has family who cares about her. God, I wish I could go back and uninvite her. At the wedding itself, everything was pretty normal and nothing crazy happened. Miley seemed to be having a good time, she was dressed appropriately, she wasn't drinking too much, and she was actually being pretty social with other family members, which made me happy since she'd been so isolated. She even complimented my dress and told me how beautiful everything looked. Here's where it gets relevant. During the wedding reception, my husband and I did a little segment where we dedicated songs to each other. It was something we planned because we're both really into music and we thought it would be a sweet, personal touch. The DJ announced that I was dedicating a song to Andy, then played my choice, and then announced that Andy was dedicating a song to me, and played his choice. The song he dedicated to me was "Adore You" by Harry Styles. We are both absolutely huge Harry Styles fans, we've been to multiple concerts together, we have his vinyl records, the works. "Adore You" is specifically my husband's favorite song from Harry, and he's told me multiple times that when he hears it, he thinks of me. It was incredibly meaningful and romantic, and I actually teared up when I heard it start playing. But apparently, because of one lyric in that song that says brown skin and lemon over ice, Miley thinks he was secretly dedicating it to her and not me. Her reasoning: she has darker skin than I do, which is true, I'm pretty pale and she has a beautiful olive complexion. But that's where her logic ends because the rest of her thought process is absolutely insane. The song has dozens of other lyrics about loving someone, adoring them, being devoted to them, but she fixated on that one line about skin tone and decided it was a secret message meant for her. Ever since then, she has been telling people, and I mean everyone, that she and my husband are seeing each other behind my back. She's been bragging to family members, posting cryptic social media posts about new love and finding happiness again, and even telling strangers at her work that she's dating my husband. My poor husband has only met Miley once before our wedding, at a family Thanksgiving gathering 4 years ago, and they literally did not speak to each other beyond a polite "Hi, how are you?" when they were introduced. That's it. That's their entire relationship history. The social media thing is what really pushed me over the edge. Miley has been posting these absolutely ridiculous, poorly photoshopped pictures of herself and my husband together. And I mean bad Photoshop, the lighting doesn't match, the proportions are off, you can literally see the cut lines where she pasted his head onto other pictures. She's also been taking photos from our wedding, that other family members posted, and cropping me completely out of them, then posting them on her Instagram and Facebook with captions like "My love and I am so grateful for this man" with a bunch of heart emojis. It's honestly disturbing how much effort she's putting into this delusion. When I first saw these posts about 3 weeks after the wedding, I thought maybe she was just having some kind of breakdown and would snap out of it. Both Andy and I reached out to her separately to ask her to stop. I sent her a long, gentle message explaining that this was hurtful and confusing for everyone, and that the song dedication was obviously meant for me, his wife. Andy sent her a shorter but firm message asking her to please stop posting about him and to respect our marriage. Her response: she blocked me on everything, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, even LinkedIn for some reason. And she completely ignored Andy's message, didn't even read it according to the message status. Since then, the posts have only gotten more frequent and more elaborate. My family's reaction has been all over the place, which is somehow making this worse. The family members who weren't invited to the wedding are saying I deserve this and that this is my karma for not inviting them. They're actually siding with Miley and saying that maybe if I had included more family, this wouldn't be happening. My cousins, who know Miley better, all think she's completely lost it and are as bewildered as I am. But my aunts and uncles who were invited are telling me I should just ignore her since I know she's lying, and that giving her attention will only make it worse. But here's the thing, ignoring it isn't working. If anything, she's escalating. 2 weeks ago, she started commenting on Andy's coworkers' social media posts, introducing herself as his girlfriend. Last week, she somehow got his work address, probably from family members who work in the same industry, and sent flowers there with a card signed "Love, your girlfriend Miley." And then yesterday, Friday, was the final straw. She actually showed up at Andy's workplace during lunchtime, carrying takeout bags, and told the receptionist she was there to bring lunch to her boyfriend. When they called Andy down to the lobby, he was completely mortified. She brought enough food for 2 people and was acting like they had plans. Andy had to explain to his confused co-workers that this was his wife's cousin who was having some kind of mental health crisis, and that they were absolutely not dating. The worst part is that 3 of Andy's co-workers were actually at our wedding. They saw us get married, they saw the song dedication moment, they know this woman is delusional. But now Andy is worried about how this looks to his boss and other colleagues who don't know the full story. He's concerned it might affect his professional reputation, especially since Miley was apparently very loud and dramatic when security had to escort her out after she refused to leave when Andy asked her to. I'm at my wit's end. This situation is so completely stupid and insane that I'm honestly dumbfounded about how to handle it. Andy and I are both losing sleep over this, and it's putting strain on our marriage during what should be our happy newlywed period. We've talked about getting a restraining order, but we're not sure if her behavior rises to that level legally, and we're worried it might cause even more family drama. I literally don't even know what to do at this point. Has anyone dealt with something like this before? How the hell do I handle a delusional family member who's convinced she's dating my husband based on a song lyric? Any advice would be incredibly appreciated because I'm completely out of ideas. Update 1. It's been 6 months since my last post and honestly, I don't even know where to begin. I'm writing this from my childhood bedroom at my parents' house at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep and I needed to get this all out. If you haven't read my original post, the TLDR is that my cousin Miley became obsessed with my husband Andy after our wedding, convinced he dedicated a Harry Styles song to her instead of me, and has been pretending to date him ever since. Well, turns out literally everything I thought I knew about this situation was wrong, and my life has completely fallen apart. So about 3 weeks ago, I was at the gym doing my usual evening workout when I noticed this guy on the treadmill next to me kept glancing over. I didn't think much of it at first, but when I moved to the weights section, he approached me and said, "Excuse me, are you related to Miley Tucker?" I immediately got that sinking feeling in my stomach because at this point, any mention of Miley makes me want to disappear into the ground. The guy introduced himself as Flynn, yes, that Flynn, Miley's supposedly cheating, abusive ex-husband who kicked her out and broke her heart. Except he looked absolutely nothing like the monster I'd imagined. He seemed nervous but genuine, and the first thing he said was, "I know this is going to sound crazy, but I need to tell you that everything Miley probably told you about our marriage and divorce is a lie." I was honestly too shocked to speak for a minute. Flynn continued, "I've been hearing through mutual friends that Miley's been causing problems in your marriage, and I couldn't stay quiet anymore. She didn't just lie to you about your husband, she lied about everything that happened between us." He asked if we could grab coffee and talk, and even though every instinct told me this was a bad idea, I was desperate for answers. We went to the Starbucks next to the gym, and Flynn proceeded to completely shatter everything I thought I knew about Miley's victim story. According to Flynn, he didn't cheat on Miley, she cheated on him. Multiple times, with multiple people, including his best friend and a coworker. He found out about the affair with his best friend when he came home early from a work trip and found them in their bed. When he confronted her, instead of apologizing or showing any remorse, she laughed and told him she'd been sleeping around for over a year because he was boring and not exciting enough for her. Flynn said he tried to work through it because he genuinely loved her, but she kept cheating and became increasingly manipulative and cruel. She would disappear for days without explanation, spend their savings on expensive clothes and trips with other men, and then gaslight him when he questioned her behavior. The final straw came when she started bringing men to their house while he was at work, and the neighbors started telling him about it. When Flynn finally filed for divorce, Miley went nuclear. She started telling everyone who would listen that he was the cheater, that he was emotionally abusive, that he kicked her out with nothing. She even called his work and told them he was unstable and potentially dangerous, which almost cost him his job. Flynn said he didn't fight back against her lies because he just wanted to be done with her and move on with his life. But, Flynn said, looking really serious, when I heard from my cousin that Miley was now targeting your marriage and harassing your husband, I realized I couldn't stay quiet anymore. She destroyed my life with her lies, and now she's trying to destroy yours. I don't know you, but nobody deserves what she's capable of. I was sitting there in complete shock, trying to process everything Flynn was telling me. It explains so much about Miley's behavior, the desperation, the delusion, the complete lack of boundaries. If she was capable of fabricating an entire victim story about her own marriage, then of course she was capable of fabricating a relationship with my husband. Flynn showed me screenshots of text messages between him and Miley from during their marriage, including ones where she was literally making plans to meet other men while telling Flynn she was going to visit family. He also had photos that contradicted her timeline of events, and even a recording of her laughing about cheating on him. I felt sick looking at all of it. The worst part, Flynn said, is that she actually believes her own lies now. In her mind, she's the victim in every situation. She's probably convinced herself that your husband really is in love with her, just like she convinced herself that I was the problem in our marriage. I thanked Flynn for telling me the truth and drove home in a complete daze, my head spinning with this new information. I decided I needed to confront Miley immediately and put an end to this insanity once and for all. I was going to march over to her apartment and tell her I knew the truth about her marriage, about her lies, and demand that she stop harassing my husband and me. But when I pulled into my driveway, I saw a car I didn't recognize parked on the street in front of our house. My first thought was that maybe Andy had ordered food delivery, but as I got closer to the front door, I could hear voices inside. Laughter. And one of those voices definitely wasn't Andy's. I used my key to quietly open the front door, and what I saw made my blood turn to ice. Andy and Miley were sitting on our couch, the one we picked out together for our first home, and she was curled up against him like they were a couple. Her head was on his shoulder, his arm was around her, and they were looking at something on his phone together, both of them smiling and laughing softly. The sound I made must have alerted them because they both looked up at the same time. Andy jumped up so fast he nearly knocked Miley over, and the guilty expression on his face told me everything I needed to know. "It's not what it looks like," were the first words out of his mouth, which is literally the most cliché thing a cheating husband can say. "Really?" I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded considering I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience. "Because it looks like my cousin who's been stalking and harassing us is now sitting in our living room with her head on your shoulder." Miley had the audacity to smirk at me. "Hi, cousin. Andy and I were just spending some time together. You know, like couples do." The rage that filled me in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. "Get out of my house," I said to Miley. "Get out right now before I call the police." "Actually," Miley said, standing up slowly and smoothing down her dress, "I think you're the one who should leave. Andy and I have some things to discuss." I looked at my husband, the man I'd married just 8 months ago, the man I'd defended against this crazy woman's delusions for months, and waited for him to tell her to leave. To tell her she was insane. To choose his wife over my manipulative, lying cousin. Instead, Andy looked at the floor and said, "Maybe we should all just calm down and talk about this like adults." That's when I completely lost it. I started screaming at both of them, asking Andy how long this had been going on, how he could do this to me, how he could let me defend him while he was sneaking around behind my back. Andy kept trying to interrupt, saying it wasn't what I thought, that they were just talking, that nothing physical had happened. But the way they'd been sitting together, the comfortable intimacy between them, the fact that he was taking her side instead of mine, I knew he was lying. Maybe they hadn't slept together yet, but something was definitely happening between them. The fight escalated until I was sobbing and screaming and Andy was yelling back, and Miley was just standing there watching like she was enjoying every second of our marriage falling apart. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my purse and my phone and told Andy I was done, that I was leaving, and that he could have his precious Miley since that's apparently what he wanted. I've been at my parents' house for 3 weeks now. Andy has called and texted hundreds of times, begging me to come home so we can talk, saying he can explain everything, that he made a mistake but nothing actually happened between them. My parents want me to go to marriage counseling. My friends are split between telling me to work it out and telling me to divorce him immediately. I keep thinking about what Flynn told me about Miley being able to convince herself of her own lies. Did she somehow manipulate Andy into believing her delusions? Or was he a willing participant from the beginning? I honestly don't know what to believe anymore. All I know is that the man I married, the man who dedicated "Adore You" to me at our wedding, was sitting in our living room with a woman who's been tormenting us for months. And I don't know if I can ever forgive that, no matter what his explanation is. Update 2. It's been another 6 months since my last update, and I honestly can't believe I'm even writing this. For those who haven't been following this train wreck, my cousin Miley became obsessed with my husband Andy after our wedding. I found out she'd been lying about everything including her previous marriage, and I caught her and Andy together in our living room. Well, the hits just keep coming. I filed for divorce 3 months ago. I'm done. Completely, utterly done with Andy and this entire nightmare situation. After everything that's happened, I can't even look at him without feeling sick to my stomach. The man I thought I married, the man I trusted with my whole heart, actually chose my manipulative, pathological liar of a cousin over his own wife. I still can't wrap my head around it. What makes it even worse is that Andy has been living with Miley since I left. Yeah, you read that right. Less than a month after I moved out, she moved into our house. The house we bought together, where we were supposed to start our life together, where I was supposed to feel safe and loved. Now she's probably sleeping in our bed, using our kitchen, playing house with my husband like she's won some sick game. The divorce process has been absolutely brutal. Andy keeps trying to contact me through mutual friends, my family, even my lawyer, begging me to reconsider and claiming that Miley manipulated him and that he made a terrible mistake. His story keeps changing. First it was that nothing happened between them, then it was that she manipulated him into feeling sorry for her, then it was that he was confused and vulnerable after our fight. I don't care what his excuse is anymore. He made his choice when he let her into our home and put his arm around her instead of kicking her out. My lawyer is amazing though. We're going for half of everything, the house, his 401k, savings, even his precious car collection that he thinks is so important. Turns out that when you cheat on your spouse in a no-fault divorce state, you still lose half your assets. Andy thought he was being smart by having Miley move in so quickly to show he was moving on, but all he did was prove to the court that he was already in another relationship while we were still married. The most infuriating part is watching how Miley has completely isolated Andy from everyone who cares about him. His best friend Jake tried to talk sense into him about 2 months ago, telling him that Miley was bad news and that he was throwing away his marriage for someone who was clearly unstable. Andy told Jake to mind his own business and hasn't spoken to him since. His own parents have tried to intervene, and Miley apparently told Andy that his family never supported their relationship and was trying to manipulate him into going back to his ex-wife. So now Andy barely talks to his parents either. It's like watching someone get brainwashed in real time. Andy was always a little naive, but he wasn't stupid. Yet somehow Miley has convinced him that everyone who questions their relationship is the enemy, and that she's the only person who truly understands him. She's got him wrapped around her fingers so completely that he's burning bridges with everyone who actually cares about him. But here's the really rich part. Flynn reached out to me again last week. Remember Flynn, Miley's ex-husband who told me the truth about their marriage? Well, turns out Miley is already cheating on Andy. Flynn heard that she's been seeing some old boyfriend of hers, some guy named Marcus that she apparently dated before she met Flynn. She's been meeting up with him while Andy's at work, just like she used to do to Flynn. Flynn thought I should know in case it helped with the divorce proceedings, but honestly, I don't even care anymore. If Andy wants to be with someone who's going to cheat on him and manipulate him and isolate him from everyone who loves him, that's his choice. I tried to protect him from her for months, and look where it got me. He can learn the hard way what kind of person Miley really is. The divorce should be finalized within the next 2 months. My lawyer says we're in a really good position to get everything I'm asking for, especially since Andy's been making some pretty stupid financial decisions lately. Apparently he bought Miley a new car last month, with money from our joint savings account that he wasn't supposed to touch, and he's been paying for expensive dinners and weekend trips trying to keep her happy. All of that is actually helping my case because it shows he was using marital assets for his affair. I'm getting the house, which means Andy and Miley will have to find somewhere else to live. I'm getting half his retirement savings, half the value of his precious cars, and spousal support for 2 years while I get back on my feet. By the time this is all over, Andy is going to lose pretty much everything he worked for during our marriage. And honestly, he deserves it. I know some people might think I'm being vindictive, but I don't care. Andy didn't just cheat on me, he chose to believe a woman who had been stalking and harassing us for months over his own wife. He chose to comfort the person who was making our lives hell instead of protecting our marriage. He chose her delusions over our reality. So yeah, I'm taking half of everything. Let him and Miley figure out how to rebuild from nothing. They deserve each other. The papers should be signed soon, and then I can finally close this chapter of my life forever. Update 3. Well, it's officially over. The divorce was finalized last week, and honestly, I feel like I can finally breathe again for the first time in over a year. For those who've been following this absolute shit show, the TLDR is, my cousin Miley became obsessed with my now ex-husband Andy after our wedding. I caught them together, filed for divorce, and have been fighting for my fair share ever since. The divorce went exactly as my lawyer predicted. I got the house, half of Andy's retirement accounts, half the value of his car collection, spousal support for 2 years, and honestly pretty much everything I asked for. Andy's lawyer tried to argue that I was being unreasonable, but when you cheat on your spouse with their own family member, the court doesn't really have much sympathy for you. But here's the kicker, and I'm honestly not even surprised at this point, Miley left Andy about a month before the divorce was finalized. Apparently Flynn was right about her cheating with that Marcus guy, because she literally moved in with him while Andy was at work one day. Just packed up her stuff and left a note saying she found her true soulmate and that Andy served his purpose in helping her get over her divorce. The absolute audacity of this woman never ceases to amaze me. She destroyed my marriage, manipulated my ex-husband into throwing away his entire life, and then just moved on to the next guy like nothing happened. Classic Miley behavior, honestly. Once Andy realized what had actually happened and that he'd been played, he went into full panic mode. He started calling and texting me constantly, showing up at my parents' house, even tried to contact me through my work email. He was desperately begging me to talk to him, saying he finally understood that Miley had manipulated him, that he'd made the biggest mistake of his life, that he wanted to fight for our marriage. Too little, too late, buddy. I blocked him on everything and told my lawyer to handle all communication. The man had almost a full year to realize he was being manipulated, and he only figured it out when she abandoned him for someone else. He chose Miley over me repeatedly, even when everyone was warning him that she was bad news. He doesn't get to come crawling back now that she's moved on to her next victim. On a more positive note, I've actually started seeing someone new. His name is Alex and he works in a different department at my company. We started talking during coffee breaks a few months ago, and he asked me out after my divorce was finalized. He's kind, stable, has his own place and his own life, and most importantly, he thinks my cousin sounds absolutely insane when I tell him the story. I'm taking things really slow this time though. Alex knows about everything that happened and he's been incredibly patient and understanding about the fact that I need time to trust again. We've been on a few dates and he's lovely, but I'm not rushing into anything. I need to focus on rebuilding my life and healing from all the trauma Andy and Miley put me through. So that's it. I'm free, I'm financially secure, Andy lost basically everything, and Miley is someone else's problem now. Sometimes karma really does work out in the end. Thanks to everyone who followed this mess and offered support. I'm finally moving forward and it feels amazing.